Welcome back to the class, everyone. Today we are going to be talking about the importance of placement order on a handful of teams where it can make a lot of difference. But before we do that, a word from our sponsor. Do you love Galaxy of Heroes? Do you love trivia? Then you are going to love SWGOH SWGOH Trivia, where you will find not only me, but as well as Sanjita and the Gerbil competing against each other in our Galaxy of Heroes Trivia. I will put the link to that video below, so once you are done watching our fabulous video here today, go ahead and check that out, give it a like, enjoy it. But until then, back to our normal programming. I hope you all enjoyed that as much as I enjoyed making it. But on to our regular scheduled programming. So just to clarify, what are we talking about here today? We are talking about placement order. That is the place that you put the character when you are loading up your squad for battle, whether it be in GAC, TW, Conquest, it doesn't really matter. What we are not talking about, just so there's no confusion from here on out, is turn order. We're not talking about like you clocking your specific speeds so that a character goes in front of another character. We're literally talking about the fact that Daka should be in the second place in the team. Some other Talisman's in the first. Daka should be in the second place rather than the third, the fourth, the fifth. And we're going to go into the specific reasons why of each team. We have about 10 teams here total. While that is a really nice number, it also just happens to be kind of the small amount of teams where this is actually relevant. And then we'll talk about some too for funsies. But getting right into this, why does it matter that Daka should be second in the team? Well, if you understand Zombie's kit, Zombie is going to offer the entire Night Sister team 2 free revives due to her undying sacrifice. So what's gonna happen here is if you're in a battle and everything's going semi-smoothly, none of your guys have died yet, but then a huge AoE, say from General Grievous or Jedi Anakin or some other character like that comes in and just wipes everyone out. How this is going to work, how the game is coded is, while it appears the AoE is happening simultaneously against all 5 of your characters, it's actually not. It's going to be happening in the order of placement. So it's going to kill Mother Talzin first, then it's going to kill Daka next, then it's going to kill Asajj, then it's going to kill Marin, assuming it has the damage to kill all 4 of them. So by putting Daka in the second slot, Zombie offers 2 revives. You're essentially guaranteeing that Mother Talzin's going to get the first one, and we kind of have to do that because you don't want to be using Daka lead for this. And then Daka will get revived second, and then Daka can revive everyone else, and there you go. You're now just survived the huge AoE from Jedi Anakin or Grievous or Lobster, whoever it was. Whereas if Daka was placed 3rd or 4th, you would kind of be screwed because let's say you're Asajj and your Talzin come back, great. Now you don't have your reviver, and then they just kill the other 2 units on your team because you didn't get to revive everyone else because you didn't have Daka. So that is kind of the theme for this whole video, is where specific characters need to be placed to get the most bang for your buck for these specific situations. And I realize these aren't going to happen every single time, but if you can have the ideal position, why wouldn't you? But anyways, moving on to our second team here, we have Jolie. This is a very similar concept to that of the Night Sisters. And the reason why is, while this team doesn't have free revives from a zombie-like character, Jedi Knight Revan himself has Savior, and Savior is only going to save 1 character. So coming back to the same example of a really powerful AoE is going to come in and is going to wipe everyone out. If your Jolie is close to dying, or not even close to dying at all, but the hit is enough to drop him under, and it doesn't drop Jedi Knight Revan under first, he'll get the Savior over, say, Bastila Shan or Grandmaster Yoda or Hermit or whoever you have in the team. That being said, if he was down here at 5th and Bastila ate the Savior and then Jolie got killed, you don't get your revives anymore. You don't get to have all 5 characters. You don't get to keep going into the battle at your best because Jolie was later on, he got killed. Whereas if he's here, he does proc the Savior. He gets to bring everyone back and you're good to go. This is more relevant. Oh, also, we disobeyed one of our rules here, but we'll get to that later. This was more relevant back when General Grievous was killing Jedi Knight Revan teams offensively or defensively, but regardless, it's still there. This next one, this one's important, and I'm a little surprised that we don't have more things like this. This seems to be the one that slipped through the cracks. So this has nothing to do with revives. What we're going to be talking about in this team is there are 2 uniques, one on Queel and one on IG-11, and how they interact with each other will actually determine the stats on your IG-11. There's a way to get more stats on IG-11. So what you need to do is we need Queel to be before IG-11 in the starting lineup. So you put Queel second and you put IG-11 third. You could, I mean, you could shift it down a little bit. Doesn't really matter. Queel just always needs to be in front. And the reason why is because when you look at IG-11's kit, he has the specific thing that says at the start of the battle, he gains max protection equal to 20% of his max health. Well, if you look at Queel's kit, he gives all scoundrels on the team more max health. So what you're doing here is you're boosting up IG-11's max health before IG-11 is going and taking and turning that max health into max protection. This, again, might not shift the entire battle, but why would you not take free stats, especially on a tank that would want to have more survivability stacks? And I will say, this is pretty rare. There are a lot of characters in general that will boost stats or share stats to some regard, and most of them are independent of each other. This one, you can test it for yourselves if you would like. Go into a battle with Hoda in there, have use Hoda's basic before and after, and you'll see that IG-11 actually gets more protection if you have this specific order set up. So again, very different from our first revive concept, but don't leave the stats on the table if you don't have to. Next one is going to be back to our concept of revives, but this one's going to be different. So if you have the Vandor Zeta as well as the Dash Omicron NGAC, Vandor essentially gets to revive any characters an unlimited amount of times. So again, let's say you're in a battle where you're going up against a really strong AoE that's about to crush a lot of characters in your team, including Vandor Chewbacca. You want to have him last because you want any of the other characters that are in the comp that are also light side scoundrels to die first, because what's going to happen is the AoE is going to come in, really powerful hit. It's going to kill Kira. She's going to come back because in the game's mind, in the order this is happening, Vandor isn't dead yet. So she gets to come back and stick around. Then Young Han or Nest or whatever character you have in here, doesn't really matter. But we want to have Vandor last because if he's going to die, I want the rest of the characters to come back and to continue to be a problem. Whereas if Vandor is in the second slot and they kill him immediately, your revive's gone. So by the time the death for Lando is processed, by the time the death for Young Han is processed, by the time the death for Kira is processed, there's no revive unit available because Vandor is already gone. So that is another important one where you want to have Vandor at the very end to be able to take as much advantage of the revives as possible. Again, we just use this comp because we could. You can use any light side scoundrel in there and this becomes applicable. The next one, this one is really interesting and it's not going to be as universal as the other ones. But what is happening here? So this is one of the most common comps right now for Galactic Legend Ray, and it is applicable for JTR as well. We'll get to that in a second. But Sortie here, one of the really neat things she does is she is going to give I guess it's kind of a buff. It's not exactly a buff, but she's going to give a condition to the weakest character on her team called VIP, and that specific VIP is going to allow for a lot of bonuses. Specifically, it's going to stealth them, and they also get some other perks. This is really nasty because if you put this on the team and Ben Solo here gets VIP, he gets to hide underneath, it becomes really challenging to kill the Rey team because you have to kill Ben before you kill Rey. And if you can't hit Ben because he has VIP, and there are ways around this, but this is just making it harder because he's constantly in stealth and whatnot. The Rey fight gets prolonged and she ends up killing him. So the reason why we're talking about this team in regards to turn order though is when Sortie's unique kicks in and she is immediately at the beginning of the battle looking for who is the weakest character, Ben might not be the weakest character if you have this ability leveled up, which you should, and Ben is placed before, because with this ability, he's going to gain 15% max health for each light side character on your team. So, do the math there, 75% extra health. If he is placed first, if Ben is placed before Sortie in this comp, all those stats are going to get rolled in, and then when Sortie goes looking, she's going to be like, oh, Ben is not the weakest character. JTR is the weakest character now because Ben has that huge unique. And I'm not going to do this for all of them, but I thought it could be kind of cool to at least, at a bare minimum, show it for this team in a battle here. I want to do this specifically here and not like an arena where there's datacrons or really complex teams. But if we go in and check this out, the way that we currently have this set up is with Ben in here first, he is going to be gaining that 75% health that we just talked about. And you'll see how the uniques work in this way, that he is not going to get the VIP because there's no way he's going to be the weakest character with that amount of health. And you can see that now. VIP actually, it's this specific condition right here. It went on to JTR, where JTR is typically, depending on your modding, is typically a naturally more, it's typically a more tanky character than our good friend Ben Solo be, but because we put him first, we put him for Sortie, he got all the stats before Sortie started looking to see who was the weakest. So obviously in this battle, Ben didn't get VIP, so you don't get that really fun mechanic where he keeps going underneath stealth. However, that being said, if we go right back into the battle, I'm not changing mods, I'm not going to change comp, I'm not going to change the node, I'm not going to change anything at all except the placement order of Ben and Sortie here. We're going to make sure to put her first so that she does her search before Ben's unique is actually entered into this. And you're going to see VIP is going to change characters, and it's going to be in the ideal place where we want it. So now, bada bing, bada boom, Ben Solo sitting here with the VIP condition because we made sure that Sortie looked for the weakest character before he got his big buff. This isn't going to happen 100% of the times, depending on how you have your entire team modded. Ben Solo might actually be the weakest character no matter where you place everything. It's going to depend on mods. It's going to depend on what other characters, how tanky they are, and to be where he shifts and falls in the line. But you do have a much better shot if he is consistently placed after, because of the thing we explained like 16 times. So we're not going to go into battles and do that every single time, but I did want to show specifically with this one that this isn't just something we're making up. We didn't just invent how we think the code works. It is actually how mechanics in games work when it is looking to see how these different mechanics function. So leaving off of Ben Solo, the next team I want to talk about is a budget Raylo. This is the exact same concept, so I'm not going to take a lot of time into it. The only difference is I just want to let people know, if you geared up Ben Solo and don't have Ray for whatever reason, you can use this team. It's actually pretty cool. Ben will be hidden. JTR, you have to actually still kill her first before you kill Ben. Makes the whole thing really annoying. And there actually is a lot of cross synergy between Resistance and Droids, so that's also kind of fun. We'll figure to throw that one in there for anyone who has those exact requirements. Next up is going to be CLS. This is a very similar concept to that of the Sortie and Swolo thing. And again, this one might not matter depending on your modding. This is probably more important for those of you out there who have a Gear 11 Nubaka, because they don't have Kyrotex like most of us don't. And what we're looking for here is Guard. We always want Guard to be on CLS almost regardless. It is pretty much known to be the best thing. And Guard always goes to the weakest character. So what you want to do here is you want to make sure your Nubaka or your Chewpio, whatever you call him, that he is in the placement before Chewbacca. He needs to be in the slot 2 or 3 or wherever you need to be so that he comes before Chewbacca and Chewbacca comes after him. Because how his unique is, he's going to get 40% of the leader's stats. We want that to be happening before Chewbacca is looking for the weakest, because if he's naturally tankier because of those stats, Guard goes to CLS, and then CLS is just going to take way more turns than our good friend Nubaka here is, and Chewbacca's going to assist more, do more damage, heal more, etc. And again, I can actually, I won't show it, but on my team, I can shift around the order any way I want. Guard will always fall on CLS, because my Nubaka here is Relic 7, and it's really quite hard for him to be the weakest regardless of his position. But for those of you who are in that position where you're dealing with a really weak one and you still want Guard on CLS, make sure to have Chewbacca after Chewpio there. There's no real stat gain in that team. That's just for moving the position of Guard. This one is like a lot less cool and doesn't really make me feel proud, I guess. But never put your Yodas, Grandmaster Yoda, Hermit Yoda, or anyone just generally really small, in the 5th slot. I probably should show it, but for those of you who out there who have experienced this, you know, if you put a character in the 5th slot, they are tucked behind all of your other characters, and especially if you have a quite large character, like a Galactic Legend, Jedi Master Luke, it almost becomes impossible to click on them, or at least in the rush of the battle, you end up clicking on the wrong character because they get in the way. So you always want to have, typically, your Yodas in the 2nd or 4th slot. Those are the ones that are easiest to click on consistently. You don't want them in 5th, or you don't want them in 3rd, you definitely don't want them in 5th, because when you go to throw Bastila's big hit in or whatever on Grandmaster Yoda and you accidentally click on Jolie, it kind of sucks. It's not fun. So Yoda not 5th, put him 2nd, or again, just any generally small characters. The next two are going to be the same concept. We always want to put Watt and Armor in 2nd. This isn't for any like fancy stat boost loophole. The reason why is in these specific comps, you always end up wanting to put the first tech or Beskar armor on the leader. And if you put these other characters in front, there's a tendency to, when you go to click on the character, you might click on the character in front of them, which is in the 2nd slot. But if Watt or Armor is already in the 2nd slot, they can't apply the tech or Beskar to themselves, which makes it a lot more likely that you click on the right character and aren't super frustrated and throw your phone away during a GAC because you didn't really misplay, you just fat fingered it. So this is very anti-fat fingering philosophy here. Always putting Watt and armor into the second slot. Next one I want to talk about is one of the larger misconceptions also about turn order. And I feel like it was pretty important to put this in here because I almost know we're going to get some comments about it. There is a misconception that the way you have the placement of your squad is going to determine the rate at which they assist. This is not 100% true. In fact, it's mostly untrue. The rate that your characters go in to assist is varies on a lot of things. The order is one of them, the placement order is one of them, but it's also animation speed. Like this, I'm picking on Geos because they are one of the most widely used examples where there was actually a content creator that was saying, you have to put Geonosian Soldier first, you have to put Pog the Lesser second, you have to put Sunfac third, you have to put Geonosian Spy fourth, and the reason why is so that you can apply Tenacity down, then Ability Block, then Dispel the buff, then get the hit so that there weren't any buffs there in the first place. And this just isn't entirely true. While if characters do have very similar animation speeds, this actually can come into effect. Geonosian Soldier and Sunfac actually is relevant for that. Some people like to put Sunfac first. That way he dispels before you apply Tenacity down, which I'm not really sure why you would need to do that in most cases. I guess maybe if they have Foresight and you just want to get rid of it before you apply Tenacity down, that would be nice. But I do even want to show this just because I know this was widely popular there for a while. So if we go into the mod battle here, I should already have my Geonosians loaded. So I have like the exact wrong thing to do. I put Poggle first because in that other mindset that we were talking about where all assisting is determined by the placement order, Poggle really should be trying to apply Ability Block first. And as you'll see here really quickly, that's just not the case. I'll put it on the slowest animation speed possible, and you can test this for yourself. When we come in, you will notice Finn will have Tenacity down applied before the Ability Block, assuming we don't get any dodges. So here, everyone assist, Tenacity down, then Ability Block. This next one, obviously, Tenacity down will go first because our good friend Soldier is the one attacking. We'll go ahead and do this with Spy again. It'll be, well, he might just die. Tenacity down. Oh, he didn't even get the Ability Block applied. Wonderful. But Tenacity down did hit first there. And you'll notice this does just end up being universally across the board. So while it doesn't hurt you, certainly, to want to put your Sunfac towards the front to always apply Tenacity down first, you're also not really helping yourself. It's not, the team doesn't get any better. Poggle, because of his animation speed is so slow and like he gets up to go all the way over to the enemy field, he's always going to be the one to get it last. So this is, again, his Sunfac, so his attack doesn't, he's always going to attack first if it's his turn. But if we come in here with GBA, you'll see Finn is going to get Tenacity down before he gets Ability Block, despite the fact that Poggle is in the front. So there he goes, Tenacity down and Ability Block to join it. I realize that's actually a little bit hard to see, but again, here. Hit him first, everyone comes in, Tenacity down, and then Ability Block was reset. So there's that. But you can test it for yourselves. I just wanted to make sure there was a little bit of footage to back it up because, again, that was a misconception that was out there for a while. Shout out to Go Cubs, though, for I was going over with him. He's someone from my guild, and he did point out that animation speed apart, if everyone's animation speed is exactly the same, placement order can matter. So things like Sunfac and Geonosian Soldier, but that's just so far and few between that I'm not sure if that's really necessary for a lot of the fights that currently exist out there. A lot of the teams that we used to do that, like with Troopers, where we were using Stark, it was somewhat relevant, but that's just not really that common of a team right now. But at any rate, they came, and actually Potato as well. Thank you for your help. That's not an insult. That's his name. But we're going to go ahead and finish our Geonosian battle here. Just keep things going. And then I do have one final team that I want to talk about, and it's mostly for funsies. For those of you who have been playing for a long time, the OGs, as the kids would say, there was a bug in the game because of how the developers made the game to process how an AoE works when a bunch of characters are killed. If you were using 5s on really any team with other 501st members, if they were to die, or if he was to die before they die, you would lose his sacrifice. So we always made sure to put 5s in last. This is no longer how the game works. You can put 5s in any position you want, but this is just, it's a rule. It's something I always do because of nostalgia and because a muscle memory makes it really nice when 5s is always in the right spot that he always in. So those are our 10 teams plus the extra 2. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Maybe another niche team out there where it is actually really nice when this one goes before that one, because either it makes it easy to click on, or because they actually do get a benefit like a stat change, or there's some type of revive mechanic or something like that. But at any rate, thank you guys for watching, and as always, stay awesome.